A lot of these movies that Rob Reiner made really touched a lot of people, and they became part of the culture. And it's not just in the US, but right around the world. Welcome, everybody, to the Political Catch-Up. It's Rohan and Stephanie.
Hello,
Hey, Stephanie.
everyone.
So how you been? We haven't talked in a little while.
It has been a while, yes. We've been busy, huh? Life is busy these days.
I hear you. And I believe you've moved house.
Oh my gosh, a couple times, yes.
A couple of times?
Couple times
Oh my
since
God.
we last talked, yes.
Is it that long? Boy.
It's
They
been a
say
couple
moving
months, but
houses and
I've
changing
moved
jobs.
more often than most people. So that's why it's a couple times in a short amount of time. So it hasn't been that long.
I hear you. Well, today we have Rob Reiner, which has been something that's been on my mind for a while, and I know a lot of people are in shock about this, and you obviously have heard much of the interviews, right? We were talking about this earlier.
Oh yeah, there's been many people to comment about this whole situation, and there's been interviews. There's been a lot going on in the media. This is a huge thing.
So I was just going to outline this for everybody. I don't know how to put this, but a lot of my friends and I in the past, a lot of these movies that Rob Reiner made really touched a lot of people, and they became part of the culture. And it's not just in the US, but right around the world. Many of the different films, and he made a lot of different films in different genres. So I was going to break it down with Stephanie to cover why Reiner was loved and why he mattered to so many people, the good times and the bad, the shock of what happened and the gruesome discovery that Romy, his daughter, found, and talk about that briefly. And then what we're calling the dilemma, which is the very unwelcome and controversial comments by the President Trump. We will touch on that. Not that, and we sort of debated about talking about this, but he's again intervened into areas that really should have been respected. And then the moral and social decay of America, that what Trump represents and what he did seems to be, what's the word for it? It's like an endemic problem.
I don't think there is a word for it, but yeah.
It was the cancerous, well, it's a corrosion and a corruption.
Not ready
and then
I'm not.
And then talk about the malevolent force that's really behind this whole moral decay.
So yes, we're going to touch on a lot today, but starting at the beginning, just to let people know, I'm sure a lot of people have heard of the name Rob Reiner, but if not, he's the son of Carl Reiner. I don't know if anybody's heard of Carl Reiner. He started out as a sketch comedy writer. I mean, he's worked with Mel Brooks, people of that, and Steve Martin, people of that stature. So, his roots go way back in the world of Hollywood, the Hollywood world. So yeah, Rob Reiner was a director. Like you said, he started out as an actor. He's a director of many, many films that a lot of people, I'm sure there's at least one or two out there that everybody's seen. Somebody has seen all of his, some of his films. So at least one of his films. So yeah, we're going to talk about that and how it touched a lot of people. How his films, it was kind of like a cult classic kind of thing for a while there in the heyday of his directing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember it very well. It was in my university days. So there was a whole team of us that would go and invade various cinemas, take over many rows and many wonderful times and rowdy times. I do remember seeing Spinal Tap, for instance, which dated in 1984. But some of the big ones like Stand By Me became a really major favorite, and then of course was syndicated forever, and still I think many remember fondly. But then there's things like Princess Bride. I remember a whole group of us being in there, and there was the RUSs, the Rats of, what was it? Yeah, Rats of Unbelievable Size or something. No, what was it?
I don't know. I've never seen that movie.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
No.
My God.
Misery and A Few Good Men, obviously, that's one of my favorites, A Few Good Men.
You can't handle the truth.
You can't handle the truth. But when
oh my God,
Sally,
Jack Nicholson.
That's another classic. I mean, he had a string of that. Not many directors have of that level of success. Yeah.
Well, one of my best friends loved When Harry Met Sally, and The Princess Bride, though, was huge. There's a whole line of us that went up, and there was the Rats of Unbelievable Size, or whatever it was, the RUSs. There was the, what was it? Never Go In Against the Sicilian When Death Is on the Line.
Yeah,
Classic
we'll have
line.
to watch that clip. I've never seen the movie, so. It was one of my brother's favorites when we were younger, but I never saw it.
Oh, it was fantastic. As You Wish. People who have seen it will know what I'm talking about.
And there's many. I just haven't.
Have fun storming the castle. It's got so many lines in it. They're all quotable.
I'll have to watch it.
Prepare to Die, Mandy Patinkin. It was just a classic. And what was the other one?
A Few Good Men has a lot of lines too. And
Wild to Wild. See,
don't know.
You've got it. You are going to have to watch it, Stephanie.
I'm going to have to watch it so I can know exactly what you're talking about here.
It is so full of great lines, the whole thing.
And you know what is also so full of these movies is the people that he's worked with, these stars that he's worked with, and people that weren't stars and are now.
Carrie Ells, yeah.
Yeah, Misery. I mean, he worked with
actually Billy Crystal. Billy Crystal, I think that was one of his very early spots in the film.
What got him his household name is Harry Met Sally. When Harry Met Sally, Billy Crystal, Meg Ryan. He's worked with Kathy Bates in Misery. My gosh, Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men and Tom Cruise and, people like that. He's worked with so many people.
Kevin Bacon. Kiefer Sutherland was in that too. And
yeah, actually, there's a lot of people in that movie.
Kiefer Sutherland was talking about that, saying how they did it in a few takes. And then he said, well, we've got it. Have the rest of the day off,
Yeah, we've got.
But when Harry Met Sally was, go on.
We've got a few clips we got Jerry O'Connell speaking on Rob Reiner and how much he meant to him in his life and his career. We've got also Jack Black and Paul Rudd weigh in on what Rob Reiner and his films meant to them as well. So we'll check out clips.
So you should have a listen to that.
And what were you going to say?
I was going to say, when Harry Met Sally was a huge film. I mean, it was well loved. And one of my best friends, he loved the interplay between Nora Ephron and between Rob Reiner, and the brilliant way that it had, like the he said, she said kind of thing, and the different viewpoints. And it really did capture the era. Mm-hmm. And I mean, like you said, Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal became like household names, but then you even had Princess Leia on there.
Carrie Fisher. Fisher, thank you.
Carrie Fisher was on it, yeah.
I knew the name.
So
I just couldn't pull it out, but
massive cast. And, the classic that everybody remembers, though, is the scene where Meg Ryan says, oh, yes, well, they talk about faking it.
Mm-hmm.
And so Meg Ryan does this huge thing like, oh, it's so great, and all this other stuff. And then, of course, the great line is, I'll have what she's having.
Yeah.
We should put that in.
We'll do. Yeah, put that in. Yeah, absolutely.
But these are like timeless classics. And I mean, the thing is, they were so penetratingly, they're able to capture, like we think about the male and female loneliness in this era. There was challenges in any period, as you could imagine. But when Harry Met Sally was brilliant at bringing together some very, the interplay between men and women, and really highlighted a whole lot of things that just rang true. And people loved it. Pecan Pie.
Yeah, people loved his films, and people seem to love him as well, as you can tell from some of the clips we've played. And also his wife. His wife was an amazing person as well. Now, just to touch on who she was a little bit, there's some interesting things that we can, and to let you know about her as well. Her mother was a Holocaust survivor. So, and Michele was a political activist, a photographer. She was also a film producer. So they met, Rob and Michele met on the set of When Harry Met Sally. And so what's interesting is, I said she was a photographer. In the 80s, she photographed Donald Trump for his first book that came out in 1987.
Yeah, that's right.
The Art of the Deal. And she said that later on, she said that was regrettable. She regretted being the photographer and I don't know the story behind it. I don't know why it was regrettable, but I can imagine. But that's kind of like a full circle kind of moment there.
All these weird coincidences.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And so I don't know if you want to go ahead and tell about the sequence of events of what happened here with the whole...
Before we did that, though, I still wanted to touch on a few of these films because there's you mentioned Misery, and that was huge too. See, all of these films that I went to, I had a bunch of really good friends, and we would infest cinemas because we loved movies. But these became really dear to us. And then but the thing that really struck many people was the diversity that that Rob Reiner was able to shift seamlessly. It's hard enough just to get one good hit film, but he did several, but the genres were totally different. And yet each of these are still regarded, I think, by many of the film goers very fondly, and they're classics. They've set the bar very high, like all of them. But I was going to say, like Misery, The Dirty Bird and Kathy Bates. Kathy Bates was brilliant in that.
Brilliant.
And Khan really played a great role there. But you really felt it. I mean, but the way that Rob Reiner was able to cut and portray it, but the whole thing, there's a magic when all these things come together. Great acting, good sets, but the scripts are really important, the storyline, but being able to shoot it right. I mean, there's so many things that you have to get right to make a good movie. Rob Reiner must have been the genius that he seemed to have was that he respected everybody. I mean, he invited, like Billy Crystal and Rob Reiner became fantastic friends because they got on so well on set. They said, well, why don't we just keep it going? To the point that, there's some people talk about the bromance. And so you can see that there was such joy on the sets. Like sometimes, there's a lot of stress and these sorts of things when there's a huge amount of money on the line. And yet you have a look at something like When Harry Met Sally, and there's some magic that's there because it's like...
He just made it so natural, though.
Yeah.
It wasn't pushed. It wasn't forced. Like, he made these actors, natural. And it came out natural, and it came out the whole movie just flowed as a natural thing. And that's why I think he had such a good string of a good run of successful movies like this. It doesn't happen for every director.
It just shows you how powerful somebody like Rob Reiner actually was, that he was able to pull together and some of these actors, it made them when you think about it. And now we sort of look back and they're kind of like a piece of history, but actually living it and seeing these come out one after the other and the joy. And, it became part of the fabric of, I think, many people's minds. It's like those catchy songs that stick in your mind and remind you of certain periods of time. These films, they not only have great soundtracks like that too, they also have great soundtracks, but the actors, the whole story and whatever.
It all came together. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like A Few Good Men, like you were saying about before, I mean, that film I
think almost everybody has seen that movie. That or When Harry Met Sally. Those are the two biggest ones that I think almost everybody has seen.
Yeah, yeah. And like A Few Good Men, I mean, you can't handle the truth. I mean, who
doesn't know that quote?
Know that. And and that's the thing though, there's probably people that a lot younger that might be watching this. What we want to convey to you is, look, this was a huge milestone. This became part of the fabric of many people's lives and became a common language, and it built bridges. Like many people from different backgrounds could really enjoy these things. They were great films.
Yeah, amazing.
Anyway, so you're going to say you wanted to...
Should I go back to the Michele? Yeah. Okay, so yeah, we talk about how good of a guy, and you've seen the clips. These stars talk about Rob Reiner and how much he touched their lives. And we could also talk about Michele in the same kind of way. She was a beautiful person. They met on the set of When Harry Met Sally, because Michele was also a film producer. So she was there. That's how they met. She was a photographer. She was also very involved in she was a political activist. And I believe that, and this is what I just learned about her not too long ago, that her mother, Michele's mother, was a Holocaust survivor. So that would kind of lean into her being involved in politics and why she had the views that she did about politics. And it makes sense. So that's very interesting. But also what's really interesting, it kind of comes full circle here, is something that a lot of people may not know about her, is that as a photographer in the 80s, she was the one that photographed Donald Trump for his first book in 1987 that came out. It was called The Art of the Deal. So she was the photographer for Donald Trump for that piece of work that he did in 1987. And she said that was a regrettable time, or that she regretted doing that. And we could all probably imagine why. I don't know the details behind it. I don't know why she said that, but it is fact that she did say that it was regrettable. So it's, like I said, it kind of comes all full circle here. And then with the whole thing, with Donald Trump inserting himself into this tragedy in a way that kind of takes the focus off of the tragedy and what's going on and turns the spotlight onto him as usual, which is he does. Okay, so tell us a bit about what happened that night, that as far as how you know it.
Yeah, well, it was a terrible shock. Like my wife and I, when we heard the news, I mean, it hit us like a train, and to hear what had happened was that Rob Reiner and his wife, Michele, had been murdered. And that was on the Sunday. It was around about 3 p.m., I think, and that's Pacific time. And so the sequence of events, terrible sequence. Romy, the daughter, was the one that made the discovery, but there was a masseuse that was scheduled to go see them. And the Obamas, interestingly enough, were supposed to come later in the day. And the masseuse rings Romy saying, "You really need to come. Something's wrong. I was booked." They're not answering. And so Romy went in. Can you imagine this, though? She's going in wondering what's happened, something's wrong. Walks in and then sees her father's lifeless corpse, obviously confronted. And then apparently she was overwhelmed and got out of there to then call the authorities. And so when the EMTs arrived, they discovered that Michele had been murdered as well. So apparently it was really confronting. And, I think everybody, their hearts go out to Rob Reiner's kids.
Absolutely.
But can you imagine poor Romy? My God.
Well, so she didn't even know about the second parent right away.
Not until the MTs told her.
Wow. Speaking of their kids, it so happens that I think it's their youngest or Romy's their youngest, correct? So I think the middle child, Nick, he's 32, is the one that did it. So Romy found them, and Nick is responsible.
Or alleged to have, yeah.
Well, he's been charged. He has been charged. So alleged, yes, he is the alleged perpetrator.
May well be
charged, and so we don't know why, but we do know some things about Nick. We do know that he has had many, many stints in rehab, and that started when he was 14. He's been in and out of rehab since he was 14, and he's 32 now. So, of course, there's a lot of people saying, well, they should have did this better. They should have did this better. Everybody first of all, as an addict is different, and as a parent is different. So, all this, they should have done this, they should have done that. I can't stand when people tell people what they should be doing when, of course, they don't even know anything about their lives. But the point is that he was a very troubled boy, and for him to possibly have done this is very disturbing. And another fact that we know of that I read somewhere, maybe I should quote this, huh? Well,
while you think about that for a sec, I was just going to say, though, and what in some of the reports that I read, apparently Rob Reiner had made a film with Nick, and Nick had written a lot about his struggles in life, and that revolved around being an addict and that life, and that actually did quite well. And yet it seems almost prophetic, that this would happen. When apparently he got his life together at one point, and then he was forever apparently.
He's on suicide watch right now.
Yeah.
And he was also diagnosed with schizophrenia before this happened.
Really?
Just before this happened. But what I was going to say is that the reason they were coming home weren't they coming home from a party? And the reason that...
The night before, yeah.
The night before. The reason that Nick went with them is because the Reiners were scared to leave Nick alone. So Nick went with them to this party.
Really?
So it wasn't something that was out of the blue, like as far as the struggles coming up all of a sudden out of the blue, because like I said, he's been in and out, and he's been good, and he's been well, and falling off again, and these type of things. It's been back and forth. It's been a struggle for everyone involved. So this isn't something new that the night before they went to a party and they were scared to leave their 32-year-old son alone.
Interesting. The story that I heard was that the people that went were in formal attire, and Nick rolled up in something very casual, like a hoodie or something like that. And there was some sort of, there's conflicting views on this, but some people said that there was a heated argument. Some said there wasn't. We don't really know. We just know that there was something that was out of place that night, that, it was a formal dressed party, and Nick rolled up in something like a hoodie. Not that that means anything much, but and if there was some sort of altercation, but whatever happened, they left early apparently and went home with Nick, and we're not really sure. I don't know, there's been conflicting conjecture on when it might have happened that night, or it might have happened early in the morning. We don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's a very tragic situation either way it goes. And as the story develops, as we find out new things about it, it's just a sad thing that the whole conundrum, the whole speculation about what to do with addicts is there's never a right or a universal answer for that kind of thing. So no matter what happened between the family and Nick, it's just more respectful to not give your 2 cents as far as what you think should have happened or could have been done, because it's not the case. Everybody's case is different. So I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, and the other thing that comes out of this, of course, is the deep shock that many people all around the world that admired Rob Reiner and Michele. It was a shock. I mean, they were both very well loved, very well known in many different circles. I never had the privilege of knowing him, but there's a lot of people that might have met him briefly, but a lot of people that had worked with him, and particularly people like Billy Crystal. I think, it really had a major impact on him because he and his wife regularly had dinner with them, and like the Obamas were scheduled to go and see them that day.
Yeah.
That they were discovered. And we've seen so many different interviews from different people that have come out with tributes.
Yeah.
They're well loved. And let's face it, though, they politically, for many of us, were heroes who stood up for those that who needed to be protected. Yeah. And so it's a terrible loss, though, but to have some people, I've been talking to different people about this, and the general feeling is that life sometimes just really isn't fair. And, there are people that stand for peace or for the right kind of thing that were incredibly gifted or, constructive, and in this case, with a fantastic track record and so many people touched all over the world. Mm-hmm. And to see these lives snuffed out like that, but it wasn't just that we've lost them, it's the way they were lost. Yeah. The brutality to think that they were stabbed to death or something like that. I mean, what a terrible business. And that shock, I think, for those that knew who he was and knew who Michele was, incredibly confronting.
Yeah. It's a hard thing for anybody to deal with, and especially, I can't imagine, the ones close to them, for the people that knew them. Yeah, it's hard.
And so the dilemma for us is, of course, that a certain person wanted to, you can't let people grieve in peace. You can't let people, reminisce about the good times and get all those feelings out, the grief and the shock, and then to celebrate their lives with dignity, the dignity that they richly deserved. Good people and incredibly talented people and warm people that had many different connections, well loved. And this was the dilemma. Do we allow the most, what's the word for it? Immoral. I mean, here's the image that I had.
Corrupted. Yeah. And
corruption, whatever. Here's the image I had. In my mind when I read what the esteemed president of the United States wrote, because, most presidents of the past would have said, we mourn the loss, what a terrible business, said some good, nice words and comforting words, and say, we share the grief and recognizing lives well lived. That's what a president's supposed to do. And so when so many of us read those words, in a way with this political catch-up, talking about Rob Reiner, do we allow him to intrude? Well, here's the point. We don't have a choice. The guy he couldn't leave well enough alone. He had to be the center of attention somehow, but he couldn't do it with dignity or something. I mean, there was a perfect opportunity for him to say, what a terrible loss. What a tragedy. Look at the lives well lived. Look at these wonderful movies. We will miss him. Condolences to the family. That is what a president should have done. But what did we get? What did Donald Trump say? And I'll read this and I'll quote this for people, and I'll put it up on the screen so everybody can read. Okay, so here's what the esteemed president of the United States had to say in such a presidential way. A very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling, but once very talented movie director. He could have just stopped there. And comedy star has passed away, together with his wife, Michele, reportedly due to the anger he causes others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as, in capitals, Trump derangement syndrome. The guy's just been murdered. We're all in mourning. And I had this image when I was reading this at this point. I had this image of this bulky, unkempt creature coming in to the funeral and Rob Reiner's coffin, open casket, and then he climbs up onto the coffin and relieves himself.
Wow.
That's how I felt. And I felt he's doing it to everyone. He had marking his territory like an animal.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty fitting.
Disgusting. And so anyway, sometimes referred to as TDS.
Yes.
Oh my God. Anybody that does that says, I'm a MAGA drone programmed. And so Trump goes on to say, he was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump. Really? With his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpasses all goals and expectations of greatness.
Complete lie.
Really? As they dismantle the whole country,
Complete
piece
lie.
by piece. With the golden age of America upon us. The golden age of America will be when a massive depression hits, when thousands of people lose their jobs, when the markets all collapse right, left and center, as the US currency is destabilized, as these ridiculous tariffs is like the Titanic hitting the tariff iceberg and
right.
filling with water, making it sink. Prices skyrocketing, jobs being lost. Look at the whole economy that, again, he inherited twice. Good economies, and now he's going about destroying it. So what a load of nonsense. And perhaps like never before. Yeah, well, anything that Trump usually says, the opposite is what follows. Like, Maha, make America healthy again. What are they doing? They're putting anti-vaxxers and clowns and people that are unqualified in. They destroyed a whole lot of research into cancer and things like that. The list goes on. And then he says, may Rob and Michele rest in peace.
How can they when you're claiming all this crap and just making it about yourself and spreading these lies? So now you're saying that he died not because of his son's hands or a person's hands, but because of their TDS. Which honestly, if you think about it, the only ones that have TDS are the people that
are MAGA.
Trump. The MAGA. They're deranged.
Exactly.
They have Trump derangement syndrome. Everything is about Trump with them. I mean, if you're putting down Trump, it's like they feel that we're putting them down personally. And that is a sick disease. Like, that is a sick thing that they have going on with them. And it's
they identify so strongly with Trump that, yes, if you criticize Trump, you're criticizing them.
Yes.
Well, this is what you call, what's the word for it? This is what you call a cult mentality.
Yeah, exactly what it is. And they're the only ones that actually have TDS. What we have is like normal human behavior that, want good things for humans and not these terrible things that they're tearing down. But that's whole nother story, obviously, that these good, decent human values that we cherish, that we want to see in place for all humans. But so we're not the ones deranged, by the way, just so people know that.
Well, the travesty of this whole thing is that, let's face it, we talked about how good the films were, how there are people that I've known all over the world that love those movies and still love those movies. Mm-hmm. And when this happened, the shock was, this can't be right. And the grief of a good person going down in such a way, and Michele as well. Can you imagine that you're Romy or something like that? Romy, or if there's any family loss, similar kind of situations where people have lost loved ones, but to lose both parents in one hit like that and under such terrible circumstances. And can you imagine the shock and the horror that Romy must feel having seen her dead father? Oh my God.
And the oldest child.
Where is the compassion?
Jake is the oldest.
There's three, Nick and Romy.
There's Jake, Romy. Well, who is Tracy then? From another marriage, maybe?
Yeah, because Rob was married prior to Penny Marshall.
Penny Marshall?
Yeah, from Happy Days spin-off to Laverne and Shirley.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah. Tracy, Nick, Romy, and Jake. Yeah, Tracy is 61, so she must be from, and then Jake is the next one at 34. So that's a huge age difference.
Yeah, so he had an adopted daughter, Tracy, with Penny Marshall.
Yeah, Tracy is 61, so she must be from, and then Jake is the next one at 34. So that's a huge age difference.
Romy, yeah. Okay, good. So you can imagine that this is a fresh wound, and that Jake and Romy, well, who knows? Nick is probably, who knows what Nick's feeling.
He's on suicide watch, so that's where he's at.
But I mean, for him to do that, if he did it, assuming that that's what happened, what a terrible business. But anyway, for the kids, I mean, this is a raw, open wound. And when Trump makes this comment, it's right. Like, was it on the day or the day that followed? But it was pretty soon afterwards. I think it was Monday that.
Either way, it was a ridiculous enough statement that it's been covered, like it's been all over the social media.
News.
There's so many people that have covered it. There's so many people that have commented on how ridiculous and out of
Bad taste.
Yes, thank you. It was just such a bad
malice
thing that
it was a malicious thing to do.
Yes, it's been covered by so many news stations, by everybody's talking about it. It's just such a ridiculous that it shouldn't have happened situation.
Well, it really shows you the measure of Trump. It really shows just what the moral decline is in America. MAGA is corrosive.
They eat this shit
It's
up.
corrupting.
They eat it up. Take that out. I'm sorry. They eat this stuff up.
Yeah. And this is manufactured. I mean, you look at the right-wing talking points. I mean, they develop ones. They have a love for owning the libs or owning the left or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing constructive about this. It's pure malice. It's pure hate.
Mm-hmm. And
it's just blind hate. And it is tribal. And it's like, well, there's us and where's the morality? Here's the thing that I want to really focus in on. You have your devout Christians, but they're not normal Christians. They're Christian nationalists.
Mm-hmm.
And these Christian nationalists have cherry-picked the Bible. And they think it's all right for this kind of behavior. They revere this man who has just desecrated the memory of a dead man and his wife, right in the middle when a nation and the world are mourning the loss of a good person.
Mm-hmm.
It's worse than just being in bad taste. This is something far deeper and far more
calculated.
There are no words for it. He desecrated their memories. It's like he took a dump on them in their funeral.
Mm-hmm.
Who does that? Who does that? And that is the President of the United States. And this is the point I was going to make, Stephanie, is he has set the tone for what the right behavior is. So the right behavior, according to MAGA, is that you rub people's noses in it. Like if they lose family members and if they're anybody that was critical of Trump, they are the enemy within. They are bad people.
They didn't have your political views. They were wrong. And these are the people that you make fun of or rub their nose in how wrong they were, or even call it the cause of death because they were so consumed with the hate that they have for Trump.
I mean, it just doesn't, it's not anchored in reality. It is
correct.
Totally whatever Trump whimsically thinks. And let's face it, the guy has been in deep decline recently, and many people are speculating that his time on this planet is coming to an end at some point. So what does he think? Does he, have you no compassion? Well, this is the whole thing. They have said they've railed against compassion and empathy. The whole reason civilization moved forward was based on empathy, compassion, on cooperation and working together. How can you unify a country that is so deeply divided now? And a house divided cannot stand. Do they want a complete annihilation of half the country?
Yes.
Is that a solution? Is that, there's no live and let live, or we will respect you. Like there were times where there was a decorum. There was civility once, but that is gone. They want to
divide more than they ever have. Trump wants this divide. He wants any divisions that he can.
They want to rule outright. They want to impose their particular narrow mindset. They want a country full of drones. They don't want a country full of free people.
Mm-hmm.
MAGA is not about freedom. MAGA is about slavery. Mm-hmm. MAGA is about doing what happened in Germany in the 1930s, doing what's happening in Hungary, in Russia, currently in Poland and Turkey. They want to go down that path. That is what they're doing systematically. This is what the purging of the FBI and the Department of Justice is. And they're trying to do it to the military now.
And as I hear, you have done extensive research on this subject.
I don't want to tip my hand too much, but yes, it's a kind of analysis, though, where it's bringing together several different disciplines, cuts across, it unifies a whole lot of silos of knowledge. And part of that is the historical background. So I do things like I do look at Italy and Germany when democracies became dictatorships or authoritarian regimes. I mean, I go through a series of them, but some of the key ones are, like I said, Orban and Hungary, Erdogan and Turkey, Poland and Russia and, a few others.
Deep.
What's that?
So the rabbit hole goes pretty deep.
And the one that a lot of people don't talk about too much, but some people have touched on it, one that I think is actually really an important one to look at, and I'm going to reveal what that's all about and why it's critical. But Spain is actually a very interesting model. It's about looking at the key ideologies that drive this, what the history was behind them, how they formed, how they coalesced, the methods that they're using, and their objectives. And the idea is to actually map out like a 4D chessboard, some people call it. But it is to show the interrelationships and the logic of how this whole movement and this whole authoritarian consolidation is being carried out. And I see so many different people saying it's an extinction burst. No, it isn't. It is an authoritarian consolidation and the most threatening series of events that we've ever seen for democracy in the United States. Am I saying it's all over and we're cooked and give up? No, far from it. The US is still very resilient in many areas. Legally, the military, certainly, they made an oath to the Constitution, and I think many of them are very strongly wedded to that. Their honor is based on that. And let's face it, some of these people, they've had friends that have died in battle. They have fought. They have sacrificed so much, and they have chosen a path that requires such discipline and to dedicate your life to such a pursuit. And to think that you can have something like the Quantico meeting and go and talk about doing some push-ups and saying girls need to be judged the same as boys rather than how can the military really work properly. And look at the accusations now of war crimes, of breaking the Geneva Convention. And we're still waiting for this information to come in about these boats that are being hit. And we had that case where there was the two people that were hit after there were 11
surviving. They were hanging on for dear life and they got hit. This is illegal. And the Geneva
Convention is very clear.
It's not. It is.
It's a war crime.
Yes, absolutely.
It is categorically a breach.
Do you have anything?
But the thing is, but here's one of the things. There was an interesting set of opinions about this, though, is that now we're focusing on the Geneva Convention when really we should be focusing on, 80, 90 people that have been killed without really seeing any proof that these people were actually trafficking or involved in anything. Many reports have come back that they were fishermen and their families or friends or groups.
That's not how it works in the U.S. anyways. Yes, they were outside of the U.S., but that's not how we do things as far as just, okay, well, they're guilty, let's blow them up. That's not how we do it. Even if they were what they claimed to have, what they claimed that they were.
I saw Scott Galloway recently. He was asked questions like, well, how is it that Trump can be so corrupt and getting billions of dollars through crypto and all sorts of things and active what people perceive as being bribes from all around the world and being given a jet and being given, and like how many pardons of people, like they're saying, like when we're talking about hitting these boats that are supposed to be trafficking drugs and you got 11 people, you're going to go one or two people if you're going to traffic and fill the boat up with whatever the drugs are.
And you pardon the former Honduran president.
Exactly.
And
I mean,
we know.
You pardon the person that is...
It's not about the drugs, people. It's not about the drugs.
It's not. It's an excuse. Well, the theory is, they grabbed hold of an oil tanker, Venezuelan oil tanker. Yeah. This is about the oil, I think. I think they want the oil, and they're just looking for casus belli, a reason for war.
Well, I'm looking forward to what your research all entails and what we learn from it. And
so I was going to say,
I'm excited to see it.
I was going to say, I mean, part of it is there was recently on Scott Galloway was on what's it called, the moderate radicals or whatever it's called. Oh, God, I can't remember. I'll remember in a minute. So I was watching Scott Galloway talking, answering questions. Scott Galloway had some questions from the audience. And one guy gets on and basically says, how is it that America can tolerate the amount of corruption of Trump? That it's on such a massive scale. And how is it that so many mega people and so many of the Republicans can just deny it and say it's not true and it's all okay and that people aren't screaming about it? How can it be that this is allowed to go on? And how is it that half the country just doesn't even believe that it's true? And Scott Galloway just sort of threw his hands up and said, I don't know. It beats me. It's terrible. It's because of the very way that a particular segment of the right that is very sophisticated, they have built and evolved, even dating right back, well, even 100 years back or something like that. But at least if you look at the Heritage Foundation and back at the Reagan times, and you look at there's been a convergence and a coalescence of key elements of the right, the most extreme parts, the anti-democratic parts have coalesced, even though they're antithetical to each other in some of the different factional parts. Mm-hmm. But they have one main goal, which is the destruction of democracy and the replacement of it. Mm. Now, there's disagreement over what that should be, which is why it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah.
But the key point is that there is a whole machinery that is behind this, which is why it's galvanized millions of people. That's why Trump was able to galvanize, 70 odd million. The core is probably more like 20 to 30 million, and there's different strengths. But I define it like this. If you think about the film The Terminator, there are some, you cannot bargain with them. You cannot reason with them. They are programmed to kill, basically. And I mean, I'm talking metaphorically,
yes,
like Arnold Schwarzenegger playing the Terminator. But there's a cadre that they are hardcore, and nothing you can say will shake their faith. Or it's like some of the hardcore true believers in Germany in the 1930s to 1940s. There was a core group that were fanatical. That's what these are like. That's the Terminator. Then I'm going to use Star Trek. Okay, this might sound a bit geeky and nerdy, but there's like Star Trek. There's the Borg, and it becomes the collective, and it's the hive mind, and you get assimilated. So it's things like QAnon and rabbit holes and all of the different appeals where there are certain beliefs that are then reinforced. And so you have like the Borg, resistance is futile. And they and the Terminators are kind of, even though they butt heads sometimes, but there's different classes. And then it's like The Walking Dead is like at the bottom of the pile. They're like zombies and they're looking for red meat. You know,
I've never
The
seen
Walking
that.
Dead.
I've never seen that or Star Trek.
Oh my God.
Don't go into it.
Go and look up the Borg in Star Trek because that'll help, and have a look at The Walking Dead.